it's happened. Warner Brothers has acquired the rights to make a live-action Bleach film. When I heard about it 2 years ago, the fact that they were trying to acquire the rights, I didn't think they would make it. I thought that the project would not go ahead and it will not go any further than that. But it seems they have the rights. It still doesn't mean that the project will get off the ground, because you've got other films like Akira, which are in hiatus right now, or development hell, as other people like to call it. And I'm somewhat relieved, because even though I didn't like the Akira film that much, it would still be stupid for them to make a live-action film, because it just wouldn't fit. Some anime should never be adapted into live-action, because they just don't suit. They just don't, because they just don't suit it. And I reckon Bleach may well be one of them. Just as Naruto would be. I don't watch One Piece, but One Piece would be very much the same. Anyhow, it seems that Viz are very keen to go ahead with it, and in the press release it said that they will be developing a screenplay later this year. They have a producer now and a writer, and one of the producers looks like they may become the director eventually too. I'm not sure what to think about that, because that particular producer, he's only created comedy films. Whilst Bleach has sprinklings of comedy, it's mostly action and has a lot of dark themes in there as well. And there's violence, bloody violence. People get injured and so on. So it doesn't seem like the kind of film that he would be helming. That doesn't really bode well for the production anyway. It's just not reassuring at all. I'm not very happy at all. My first reaction, to be frank, was what the fuck? WTF? Why? Why? Because I just kind of thought, well, 2 years after not receiving any more news that they'd gained rights, I thought, well, okay, whatever. And then I was randomly checking, and that's when I found it a couple of days ago, that they'd acquired the rights, and I just couldn't believe it. And it's just, I was upset at first. I was severely dismayed and disappointed and even angry, because it's very likely they'll ruin it. And Bleach is such a popular series, and people who want to get into Bleach, they may well be put off. Not that I would blame them, because the film would be awful. But the series, they may miss out on the true. But the thing is, though, they may miss out on seeing what Bleach is really like. The manga. Look no further than the manga, because that is the source material, and that's what most people read first before they see the anime. So yeah, I'm not looking forward to that, and it may even just ruin Bleach as a whole anyway. People may not be able to look at it in the same way again after seeing the film. I'm going to remain pessimistic about it until they prove otherwise. I'd much rather be proved wrong and pleasantly surprised than to have high hopes and then have them dashed and crushed so quickly, because I wouldn't have been able to handle that. I'm a big Bleach fan. I also like the other shonen series I like is Naruto. That was the one I got into first. Bleach was not long after, and that's why Bleach means just as much to me as Naruto does. So, of course, it was only a matter of time before one of them was going to be pitched as a live action. It just so happened that Bleach was first. It wouldn't surprise me if Naruto was. But anyway, I'm not looking forward to this, to say the least. There's been this interview recently. There's been this interview recently by Deb Alki from About.com. and she went to go and see Jason Hoffs, who's apparently head of productions at Viz Productions, who will be working with Warner Brothers to make Bleach. Needless to say, it still doesn't convince me that it's going to be a good film. Of course, even though Aoki probably meant well by going to interview someone on the team who's going to be involved in the production of Bleach to try and ease fans' concerns, it still doesn't do anything. It still doesn't do anything to reassure me at all. All it looks like is that they're just trying to sugarcoat the fact that it's going to be changed in some way. You know, they said that all adaptions have to be changed. Yes, they do. Yes, there may be some minor changes, but the way they word it almost seems like that. I know they're saying change is inevitable. I know they're saying that change is inevitable, but the question is how much change? Because if they Americanize it, if they change the setting at all, for instance, like Soul Society with the Rukongai, which is very Japanese in that everyone wanders around kimonos and so on. If they changed that to some kind of Western setting, it just wouldn't be Rukongai anymore, would it? And that's the same with the other districts. And the Serite as well. If they changed it to something else, it wouldn't be the Serite anymore. And the same goes for Karakura Town. As in, if they changed the characters who live there, especially Ichigo and his friends, if they completely changed them, I wouldn't be able to take it, because it would just be, I'd just be looking at some kind of twisted, warped version of something I love. I'd be looking at it and think, what have you done? It wasn't broken, so don't fix it. That's the problem with these companies. I mean, I'm not much of a Dragon Ball fan, because I haven't really read it or watched it, but I did see a bit of the film, and as an anime fan, I just cringed. It was terrible. As a film in its own right, it was terrible. But it's even worse that it was based off an anime and a manga series. It was horrible, and I feel sorry for all those Dragon Ball fans. I just hope against hope that this project, if it does go ahead, that it won't wreck everything. I mean, it can be really bad and so on, but if it wrecks everything for everybody else, especially those who want to get into it, then that's where the problem lies. That will be even worse for me than learning that it was going to be a live action in the first place. I mean, Bleach is a very long series, that's a fact. Most shonen series are, especially if they run in Shonen Jump. And Bleach has a lot of arcs. So I can see them, because, you know, this is what Hollywood does. They try and squeeze everything into one bit, and they cut loads of stuff out and it doesn't work. Warner Brothers may not be Fox, but they're still part of Hollywood. So things do not bode well for the series at all. And Bleach, with the copious amount of arcs that it has, it means that they'll probably just jam-pack everything in. I mean, they could even do something stupid like cramming in the whole Substitute Shinigami arc, and then the Soul Society arc, followed by the Awakemundo arc. If they did that, it would just be a mess. I mean, at least if they tried to do maybe a bit of the Substitute Shinigami arc and then go into the Soul Society arc. Perhaps, depending on how they paced it, it could work. Keyword, could. Unlikely, but it could. So I think that's probably one of the reasons why they chose it. Not just because it's popular, because it's so long. They can produce several films for it and milk it for all it's worth. Sort of what they do with the anime, where, you know, if they run out of canon material, they go on to filler, which is very annoying. So I tend to skip the fillers when I can, because they have nothing to do with the real plot line, so there's no point in watching them. However, if I want my Bleach fix and I've finished watching all the canon material, then perhaps I might dip in once or twice. I rarely do that, and that's the same with any other series I watch that has fillers. Anyway, it seems that they're going to be basing it off the manga rather than the anime, so we probably won't have any fillers we probably won't have any adaptions, so we probably won't have anything to do with the fillers in the films. So, for instance, they won't be adapting the Bount arc for live action. For instance, they won't be adapting the Bount arc into live action. That's okay, but still, things aren't looking very promising for me right now. Things aren't looking promising at all. I have a bad feeling about this, because if they ruin it, because they could ruin it even worse than Dragon Ball Evolution ruined Dragon Ball. If they did, in fact, even if they ruined it just as much as Dragon Ball Evolution ruined Dragon Ball, it's gonna hit me hard, even if I don't see the film. I mean, sometimes you can just tell from the trailer how bad it's gonna be. And oh gosh, I'm not looking forward to it. And those who are thinking about going into anime or manga, it's probably going to ruin it for them as well. In fact, it may even ruin it for those who aren't even into the genre. Either way, this is most likely going to be a train wreck of epic proportions. I guess all we have to do is sit and wait and see how things go and what the premise will be for this film.